So good morning, everybody. Today's program, we're concluding the Making a Plan Facilitators training, and you are becoming the first class certified as Making a Plan Facilitators. Signed certificates will be issued to each of you completing the training into next week. Let's see, why isn't my... So as a quick overview here, the first class, you recall we did extensive orientation to advanced care planning with mental health in mind. And then for homework, you did in-depth study about the toolkit. And then in class 2, we talked about exploring need and potential and challenges and opportunities, and then did role plays for engaging peer members and drawing them in. In today's class, we're going to be talking about implementing the MAP program in peer centers and holding the focus in making that all work. These are the training objectives. You got them in your program detail for today's program, so I'm not going to review these. And then here is an overview of our program today. Excuse me. So the first hour, Carol will be doing her presentation, and then she'll be dropping off, and then Michael will do role plays with me in the second hour when I do presentation also about MAP facilitation in the peer centers. I'm so happy that Carol can be here today to do this presentation for the class. You really are in for a treat. And it's so nice also that we can let her know how much her expertise was appreciated creating the class 2 role plays that we did last week, and also will be reflected in the role plays we do this week too. So Carol, thank you for that. And I want to thank Michael too, Michael Reynolds, for serving in the peer member role today as we go through the role plays in the second hour, as he did in last week's class too. And I'll be sure you all get the class 3 role play scripts following the class, knowing that they can be a really good reference. And I already sent you the class 2 role plays from last week, the scripts for those. So before we proceed, I'm going to, let me see here if I can figure out, pause the recording. And then
and we've done continuing education and training, and that includes this particular training that we're doing right now. So it's in addition and on top of our peer support training. Next slide.
No, for me.
So what we do is reframe our own lived experience as knowledge. So it's really an opportunity to think about what our stories are, and then how does our lived experience story prepare us to be a peer support specialist, number one, and then how might that same story help us in our role as MAP facilitators. Next slide. And the first thing we always have to do is make the connection. You know, building that trust, making the connection is always our first step. And kind of putting in a few little sprinkles of our own story sometimes helps to make that process go smoothly. Next slide. So what we have here is from the Department of Healthcare Services, the 17 core competencies for peer support specialists, and we're not going to go through all of them. But we're just going to pick out a few of them that feel specifically relevant to the MAP training. Cultural competence is really important, but the role of advocacy is very important. Next slide. So starting with self-advocacy, what we then do is pay it forward. to help with advocacy for others. So part of the MAP facilitator training is really helping people to speak up for themselves. So the speaking up for yourself, staying informed, knowing your rights, finding support, problem solving, self-determination, and asking for help are all skills that are part and parcel of the toolbox that you can use when you're working as a MAP facilitator. Next slide. And of course, the big one is that part of the MAP facilitator process is that the individual will choose, hopefully, if they can, a healthcare advocate that can walk with them and speak for them if they are unable to do so themselves. Next slide. So this is 6 through 11, trauma-informed care. We hope we always do that. Probably not going to use your group facilitation skills with this particular process, although in the future maybe we will, but self-awareness and self-care is really important because we are kind of delving into a lot of issues that can be triggering, and being in a place of being, well prepared and having, good sleep is really important so that we can show up to be a good facilitator. Conflict resolution, probably we will hopefully not have to use that skill, but professional boundaries and ethics are very important in this particular work that we do. Next slide. So boundaries are both important for ourselves, but also for our clients, and things that come up in, you may have already talked about this, is that it is likely that some of the folks that we work with will ask us to be their health advocate, and we cannot. So, being clear about, where our role begins and ends is very important. And we'll talk a little bit later about the difference between the work that we're doing as a facilitator with the MAP workbooks and the advanced planning versus peer support. So really trying to separate those out, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Next one. So these are the last skills, 12 through 17. And probably the one that's most important in this group is that the advanced planning is a type of safety crisis planning, confidentiality, and digital literacy and documenting skills. All of those we will probably use, certainly confidentiality. These are probably the most intense private conversations you're going to have with somebody. And then helping folks to get the completed documents into an electronic record will require that we do understand how to do that. So both documenting and digital literacy are skills that we will use and are part of our toolbox. Next slide. So ultimately, the making a plan, thinking ahead is a form of being our own advocates, ahead of time, making sure that our wishes are known by writing them down and sharing them with people that will need to know that when the time comes. So, yeah. Okay, next slide. And then, of course, being very clear about documenting, writing our wishes down, and then having them notarized or witnessed is part of the official documentation process to make sure that these are legally binding. So those will be skills that you will need to use as well. Next slide. And of course, confidentiality. This is really important, with obviously the caveat, the limitations of confidentiality, and those are things that we've learned in our peer support basic training that if somebody reveals to you that they will be, that they want to hurt themselves or somebody else, you do need to tell your supervisors. But hopefully you've had that conversation with them as part of the initial interview, on day one. But to all intents and purposes, everything that they've said to you will be confidential. And my understanding is that they will also be holding their own records. Those will not be left in the centers. Yeah. Okay, next slide. Any questions on that so far?
So let me pause this while we, let's see. If you could proceed.
Okay, so, right, we're down to the wire now. This is really about what's it going to be like to be a MAP facilitator, so getting the job done. Next slide. Okay, so this one feels really important, is remembering who's in the driver's seat. And we know that it is our client, and we are there to guide them along on this journey. So it's really, this slide is just to remember that all the way through this whole process, the person who we really want to elevate as the decision maker is the client or the member. Okay, next slide. Logistics. Okay, so as you get familiar with the workbook and the process of facilitating the completion of the MAP toolkit, you will become more efficient in your use of time. Center members can have up to 3 work sessions, 1/2 hour each, working with you to complete their advanced plan. Encourage your peer members to work with the MAP toolkit between meetings with you as the facilitator. Next slide. And the challenge is really staying focused on the task at hand and making best use of our time. So you will be paid to do this work. And so it is important to schedule your time for doing the MAP work with your manager. And you can only do this work on the clock. So if you don't get finished, it's not an option to do it after hours. It does need to be rescheduled when you are at work. Next slide. Okay, and then the other issue is around separating MAP facilitation from peer support. We are all trained peer supporters. We can do that work, but it is important that you establish and maintain boundaries between your work doing peer support and your work working as a MAP facilitator. Next slide. And then there are choices around emotional response to triggers. As you begin engaging the peer member in MAP work, let them know that doing this might trigger strong emotions. Let the member know they will have the choice to set aside the MAP work to address the issue there and then, or they could choose to continue with the MAP work and address the issue in peer support at another time. Next slide. Okay, so we have 3 slides coming up now on strategies to stay focused on the MAP facilitation. Get buy-in and commitment to complete the process. Set scheduling expectations, so letting people know how much time they have available. Be well prepared. Share the workbook with the peer member ahead of the first session to review and think about. Have them write down any questions. Focus on questions that they need to answer to complete the MAP toolkit or workbook, and then save unrelated questions for peer support at another time. Next slide. Make sure you have a space that's quiet and where confidentiality can be maintained. You could use a white noise maker to prevent being overheard, or choose a quiet location with minimal distractions and interruptions. Next slide. Sit at a table with good lighting and space for you both to sit comfortably so that you can both see the workbook materials, have a good night's sleep, and be focused and awake, healthy and well. Next slide. If a particular question is taking more time than available, determine, is it a question specific to completing the MAP toolkit? Does the client need to talk to somebody who's not there? Can you phone them now or email them to get the information needed? Does the client need time to think about this issue? Can it be postponed until the next session? Next slide. Plan how to handle peer support questions. And remember, the member is in the driver's seat. So let the folks that you're working with choose how they want to handle these issues. And the options that they have are to stop the MAP work and address the peer support need in that moment. Use a parking lot notebook or journal to jot down the issue for later and continue to do the MAP work. Or schedule a peer support time possibly before or after the MAP work session. Next slide. So here you have the resource slide for Susan. She will be available if you are have questions. And that's the website reference that has all the recordings and all the materials to date is on the caringcommunities.org website. Next slide. And do you have any questions?
Okay, so I'm going to pause the recording. So for this part of the class, we're going to be doing role plays about things we've been talking about today. And Michael and I are going to do 3 different role plays about making a plan, making a plan work for your peer members served. After each role play, we'll have class discussion, and we'll have about 8 minutes for each role play, including the discussion. We're recording the role plays, but we will stop the recording each time we finish the role play. And I'll facilitate the class discussion. So the role plays we'll be doing, our first one is about maintaining boundaries between peer support and the making a plan facilitation. The second role play will be about choosing a help agent. And the third role play will be about my documents are done, now what? So that's kind of what the role plays will be. And so we'll begin with the first one, maintaining boundaries between peer support and making a plan facilitation. So here's the scenario. This role play addresses establishing boundaries between making a plan facilitation and peer support when doing the MAP peer work sessions. So here we go. It feels important to let you know, Michael, up front that I have a set amount of time to assist you with your advanced care planning. We have up to 3 1/2-hour sessions.
Well, it sounds like a pretty involved process. Are you sure that's enough time to get the job done?
Well, this is a very easy to use workbook, and I think you will find that you can fill in most of the questions on your own. I am here to help you when you have questions, when you would like to talk things over, or have me review your paperwork. Most of this can get done in the time frame we have to do this, but you need to do some preparation on your own and some follow-up after our work sessions too.
So I'm concerned that some of the questions may remind me of some previous times I've been in the hospital. These were very stressful times for me, and I'm afraid that I may get anxious or upset. Then I may not be able to concentrate on what we're doing.
What kind of support would work for you if that happens?
Well, I think I might need to stop for a while and talk through my feelings.
We can do that, but it probably would end our MAP work session for that day because we only have a half hour to meet each time we meet. Another way we could handle that, if it works for you, is that you could make a note of your feelings and deal with them in peer support after our work session. Some people find it helpful to have a notebook to jot down what is worrying them, or we'll have a parking lot here. Is that something you would like to consider?
Yeah, I think I can do that.
Now remember, you are in the driver's seat. If you feel that we should stop our MAP work session, if something gets triggered for you working on this, then that's what we will do. You can decide what you would like to do then. With that in mind, are you ready to begin?
Well, now you got me wondering what happens if I don't finish in time, in the time that you have to work with me.
So much of this depends on you doing your homework on your own time, figuring this out as best as you can, so we can make good use of the time we have to work together. This is really about your choice and self-determination. If we need more time, I can talk to my supervisor to ask for extra time, but he will want to know that you have been doing your work on this too. So let's get started and see how it goes. I have every confidence in your ability to do this. So this role play is about designating a health agent and what to do if a person has no one. It will give guidance about choosing characteristics to empower making a selection and so on. So here's the scenario. The peer needs help deciding who to choose for their healthcare agent and what to do if they have no one to designate. So here we go. Hi, Michael. Today we are going to talk about choosing a health agent. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I actually have several people in mind, but I'm not sure how I should choose.
A healthcare agent should be someone who knows and cares about you. They will be your legal spokesperson for physical and mental health care decisions when you can't speak for yourself. You should be confident that they could do that for you when the time comes. They will be your advocate, speaking on your behalf. As your agent, they will be getting real-time information from your doctors needed to help guide your care when you are unable. The Making a Plan workbook on page 11 and 12 has an excellent overview for choosing the healthcare agent. That can help guide you and peer members too when thinking this through.
Okay, how about you? Can you be my healthcare agent?
No, I can't do that for you. It is important to keep in mind that your healthcare agent cannot be any of your healthcare providers, including peer support. This is to avoid any conflict of interest.
Well, can I choose someone who lives in another city or another country?
Well, you could, but it usually is easier to have a healthcare agent who is nearby and can be physically present if needed. And you could have someone who is further away as a backup health agent if you would like to do that. With everyone so well connected by cell phones and internet, this is much easier to do now than it used to be. Who the person is you want to do this will guide your decisions. Although my sister lives in Wisconsin and is far away, I'm really close to her. So she is my healthcare agent, as is my husband. I know she will be there if I need her, so that's why I chose her too.
And what happens if the people I ask say no and I end up with no one to be my agent?
You can still complete the advanced care plan and share it with your care providers. It remains just as important to do an advanced directive so your care providers know what care you want to receive if you can't guide your own care.
Okay, I understand how important it is to do this, to be sure my wishes are known and honored no matter what. So that's awesome. Thank you.
So our final role play is, my documents are all completed. Now what? So here's the scenario. The peer has completed their documents and now needs help with copying and distribution to make sure that their wishes will be known. So here we go. Hi, Michael. It looks like you have completed all the documents properly and they are now ready to use. Well done. We have one more step to make sure your needs are known in a time of crisis.
Okay, what is that step?
You need to give a copy of your plan to your healthcare agent, your healthcare providers, and anyone else you would want to know your wishes. That is how your wishes will be known and honored. It's really important that you do this. And it is important that you talk to people you share this with to make sure that they understand what you have done here and that they can help when need be.
Can you help me with making copies of my plan?
Yes, we can make copies of your completed documents here at the center. That way we can make sure you get copies where you want them to go and hand carry them or by sending them by mail. Another way you might want to consider distributing your plan is by making an electronic copy that you can save on a flash drive to share or email to the people you want to inform of your wishes. To do that, you would first need to properly sign and witness your documents.
Well, my healthcare agent is my mother. She lives close by, and I'll be seeing her this weekend. She's not that good with computers, so I think a paper copy would be better for her. My brother will be my backup health agent, and he lives in SAC. He'll be able to come and help me if need be, but I think an electronic copy makes more sense for him, so I can email that to him.
To make electronic copies, you have to scan your documents onto the flash drive or the computer so you can use them that way. The library can help to do this if you have a flash drive that they could scan too. Could you do this, or do you know someone who could help you to do this if you want to try sharing your documents electronically?
Yeah, I don't know how to do that, but I have a friend who could help me. I would ask her to help when I'm ready to do that part, or I might be better off just making paper copies and sending that to my brother in the mail too. I could do that, no problem.
That sounds good. So let's just take a last look to make sure everything is as you want before you do what's needed to distribute copies to the people that need to know your wishes.
Okay, it all looks fine to me. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, knowing that I have my wishes in writing, and everyone who needs to know will have a copy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Before you go, let me give you this congratulations handout that has with it the distribution guidelines. This tells you who to contact and how to get your documents into the healthcare record wherever you are seen. I think this covers them all and should be helpful.
That's so great. Thank you, Susan. I really appreciate all your help with this.
You're welcome. So for this section of the class, implementing the Making a Plan Facilitator program in the center will be our focus. And we're going to be covering what the roles and responsibilities are, workflow issues, a recommended format for doing the work sessions with peer members, when and how to engage peer members, and overall logistics for doing this program in the peer centers. And handouts I'll be referencing are in the training reference materials you got before class, and they will also be posted on the website in the Making a Plan Facilitator Resource Center, along with other things that will be helpful for you. This is a look at the different roles and that are part of the Making a Plan program. And we're going to go through these roles one by one to talk over who will be doing what. So for the center manager, they will be providing supervision, guidance, and support for you as Making a Plan facilitators. They'll be working with Michael as West County Community Services Peer Programs Coordinator to resolve issues of concern that may arise, as we've been talking about. And the peer managers will seek technical support from me if they're unable to address any issues that you may have at the peer center level. And they can be reaching me by email or appointment. And I'm hoping that I will be the last resort, and that you and the peer centers will be able to manage whatever comes your way as you set off on this implementing this new West County program for the centers. I'm hoping to retire soon, mostly, and we'll see, but I will be available in the wings as need be. So here's a look at the peer support specialists. Now, these are suggested roles that you will work out in your center over time as your Making a Plan program gets up and running. These are things all center staff could do to help make the Making a Plan program a nice success. The all staff Making a Plan program orientation was done a few months ago, and I think that you all did that too. A recording of that all staff orientation is up on the website if need be. If there's new staff coming in, or if somebody missed it and want to see that, it's up on the website. So this slide provides a good checklist to aspire to as a Making Plan program grows in your center. It gives you ideas to talk about in staff meetings too, as far as how staff could help you doing Making a Plan facilitation with peer members. So for your role as Making a Plan facilitator, as we've been talking all through the training, your role is doing MAP facilitation on regularly scheduled work time, scheduling peer members who are referred to you to do the MAP work, providing the peer member with the Making a Plan toolkit and Ziploc bag when they're ready to proceed to actually do this. You're establishing and maintaining boundaries between peer support and Making a Plan work. Finishing the sessions within 3 sessions, half hour each, unless there's some exception that you talk over with your center manager. And then maintaining a peer pilot log that we're going to look at in just a minute, which will use random numbers to identify members rather than their names, and just be a brief checklist of time spent and outcomes achieved. And then as needed, you'll be asking your center manager or one of your fellow MAP facilitators for support and assistance. So I can imagine, say, Gracie's working with somebody and something comes up, that she would turn to Danette or Sean over there at Interlink, and he turns to Michael to ask and see if that could be resolved in that way too, if there's something that is an issue. Now, as far as a peer center member, ideally they would attend the peer member MAP program orientation, which we're going to be doing next week at Wellness Center, and then the following week at Interlink. So we want to encourage members to attend that. We will be recording it, so that too will be available in a recording if it ends up that somebody down the road is a good candidate to do MAP work, and you would like them to just have a look at that orientation to get them more familiar with what this is all about. The center member is responsible for scheduling and attending the work sessions with you, retaining the MAP toolkit at all times. They can't leave that in the center, and bringing their toolkit to each work session. We're not able to give them multiple copies. They need to treasure the copy they get and keep it with them and use it to do this program. And then the properly completed documents, they're responsible for that, including the witnessing, and then responsible for properly copying and distributing their documents, and for asking for help as needed to complete their making a plan materials and have their wishes known and honored. And then for me and the community network, our responsibility following the training is that we're creating and maintaining a web-based Making a Plan Facilitator Resource Center that will house all of your training materials and videos. And we're going to take a look at that in just a minute. And then by appointment, I will be providing technical support to Michael as the peer program coordinator for West County and for peer center managers. And then by email to you as facilitators, I'll be backup tech support if nobody else can help you and you've got a question or something, you be in touch with me, and I'll get back to you. I won't be keeping regular hours, but you know, I will be in the loop for sure. Now, with completion of this training program, the MAP program is now officially a program of West County Community Services peer program. So the MAP program being implemented in the peer centers is a West County Community Services program now. And that's, you know, so I'll be in the wings to help out as I can. And then as far as the workflow, this is that, you know, so the members are referred to you by either a peer support specialist or the manager, and then you as the facilitator schedule and do the work sessions. The peer member completes their documents, gets them properly signed, get their copies and distribute their documents. And then you as the MAP facilitator seek support and assistance as need be. In your reference materials that I sent you before the meeting, you will find a congratulations handout saying, congratulations, you've completed your documents. And that handout gives distribution guidelines for how to distribute the documents now that they're completed. So it's got, you know, how to do that for all the community health centers, Kaiser, Sutter, and so on. That was prepared by Kim Barnett, who's on our Peer Pilot Leadership Council. For your information, she used to be heading up the Advanced Care Planning Initiative for Kaiser North Bay for quite a long time before she retired. So anyway, she pulled that together for us, and that's a real nice thing to have. So here's the recommended work session. So we've talked about these 3 half-hour work sessions. So this is giving an idea of what do we do with each one of those work sessions. And in your reference materials, you've got a 3-page paper called General Guidelines for MAP Facilitator Doing Peer Member Work Sessions. Those guidelines are really, really helpful and very good to give you an idea of how you can block out what gets done each session. I would suggest it would be good to review those guidelines before you begin working with a peer to help you think about how you would do your work sessions. And of course, that will vary depending on the person, but the guidelines offer a template of sorts to follow. And the role play scripts should be a big help as you think about how you will do individual work sessions. And I'd like to suggest you consider maybe having like a 1/2-inch notebook. And then in that notebook, put your reference materials, put your work copy of your Making a Plan toolkit, and your role plays and the things that you would be referencing or want at your fingertips when you're preparing to meet with somebody, or something comes up and you want to just quickly be able to get to the frequently asked questions sheet. Or so if you have a like a 1/2-inch notebook, that's your Making a Plan Facilitators notebook. And you might even tab some of those, like you could take a little Post-it note and just tab on the outside edge that says like general, your work session guidelines. So you could quickly find it when you were in a meeting. You might want to consider doing that. And then this one is talking about when and how to engage peer members. So we want the person to be referred by peer center staff based on their interest, their willingness, and their ability to do the Making a Plan work. The member must demonstrate that they are in a good state of mind, able to think about making a plan and related issues, and that they must be agreeable to scheduling appointments needed to be able to work with you as the Making a Plan facilitator. And then, of course, emphasize the importance of self-help, self-advocacy, and follow through needed for MAP work success. That's all on them, and they really need to understand their role in this and take responsibility before you put much of any time into working with them. Now, for reminders, things we've talked about already quite a bit, the being on alert for sensitive triggering issues that may require separate peer support sessions. I'm not sure what that is. During the lead into work session 1, you want to establish how the peer may want to handle the issue that could be triggered. Some possible triggers include these things when you're talking about medications, serious illness, end of life, personal wishes, and so on. There's a lot of different things that could be triggering for people, but may not be. We just want you to be aware of that. And then, of course, accentuate the positive. We always want to be accentuating the positive, focusing on how this empowers people to be proactive, to have control, to plan ahead of the crisis. And then for scheduling and documentation, as we've talked about, 3 work sessions, ½ hour each, the peer support work separate, and then using this MAP Facilitator Log to track the progress. And so this is the MAP Facilitator Log, and it is in your reference materials I sent you earlier this week. And so this is a way for the peer center managers and West County Community Services, and you too, to be able to have a kind of a record of how many people are you helping and how is it going. So each person assisted would have a number instead of a name. So these are confidential and we wouldn't be putting a person's name here. And then, so you as the facilitator would want to keep track of who is each number. So in a separate place on a separate piece of paper that you can refer to when you need, you would have a list of the numbers and the name that goes with it, because you will have to access the record for them to complete it as they go through and finish their process. So you see here, like date and time spent, session 1. Well, here I'd put like 4:14. I spent 20 minutes. Session 2, I'd put like 5:1, 30 minutes, and so on. And then if additional time was required, you know, simply yes, no. And if you could assist, yes, no. If peer support was required, just a yes, no. And then upon completion of the work sessions, did the peer member, and then you just check all that applies. And then if you observed anything that would be helpful to get the making a plan thing done with this member, you might jot that in here, just as it might help inform future interactions with other peers. And then for support and assistance, we've talked about this quite a bit. The center managers and Michael as the peer centers coordinator. The website, I think you're going to find invaluable. I think you'll be referring your peer members there too to see videos, and there's some real nice things up there. The handouts are up there. And then if need be, to email me and see if I can help if you get stuck. So what I'd like to do now is, well, let me pause the recording a minute, and then we'll take some questions before I go to the website and give you a tour of the website. So this is the website you've been seeing, caringcommunity.org. All through the training, you've seen that up on every kind of place. And with what we're doing, let me see if I can get this whole screen to show here. So this is the website when you come onto the home page, when you go to caringcommunity.org and you come onto the home page. And up here in the lead-in, you'll see making a plan, thinking ahead, workbook, and forms. If you click on those, that will take you right to the forms. A link here to the toolkit. Down here are links to advanced care planning with mental health in mind. The making a plan toolkit is here also. So these are the ones in particular that you will be accessing for the work that you're doing. So I'm going to click on the advanced care planning with mental health in mind, which is the big category, like the umbrella for all of the things that we've been doing with making a plan work. So here we have our mental health section of our website. And here gives a number of general information things in this section that hasn't really been built out much, but what's important here is this toolbar over here, the mental health toolbar. So I'm going to go through these just one by one and show you what's in there. So the first one, the e-fillable forms, brings you to the Making a Plan toolkit. And then in the toolkit, you can access the workbook, the forms, the mental health checklist, the open questions, mental health plan, and below there, the e-fillable forms. Now these are, oh, I can't show you those because, so when somebody, if somebody wants to have an electronic fillable copy that they can fill on their computer and change things until they get it right, they can click here and then they can download the electronic fillable form to their own computer and then have it there. You all might like to have a folder in your computer, your making a plan materials. You might want to make a folder and just download each of these so you have them. Then if you need them, you can just open it up and there you go, or you could show somebody just having them in your computer. So this is the Making a Plan toolkit area, the e-fillable form section. Making a Plan toolkit brings us the same place. making a plan, thinking ahead. See, these all come back to here, and then you get these documents. Supportive care plan, mental health guides. Let's see what's in there. Again, we haven't built this out much. You know, so there may or may not be things here that will be helpful. The role plays here, let's see. We created these a while back. I forget what's all actually in here. But the things that what you're going to be looking at are, here's the bottom one here. Making a plan, Facilitators Resource Center. That's what we've been talking about. That's where we're going to put your videos, your reference materials, and so on. We don't have them up here yet. The only thing here right now is the all staff training that we did, the orientation we did for your peer centers, the videos there. So, excuse me, we have a YouTube video channel, and let's see. Okay, Michael.
I was very concerned.
So anyway, I don't know, you know, the videos are in there, the lady's working on them. So, but in here, the videos from the 3 classes will be here. All the reference materials I sent you will be here as PDFs. So this will be an area that, give us a couple of weeks that we have to get all this material up there, and then that will be available. And then this section, MAP Orientation Resources. Here are videos that we did last year, the Pure Pilot Leadership Council, that has really nice little PowerPoints that were done. 5-minute one Carol did for orienting people to the making a plan thing. So anyway, you can go in there and play around with this stuff. Now I probably can't get out. So these videos, there's a 5-minute that Carol narrates with really nice little graphics. Then there's a 15-minute orientation here that was generally orienting people to what this is all about. And then there's a 1-hour orientation in here for family or peers. So these are all standalone things, just so that you know that they're there. If somebody wants to learn more, they might want to go into this orientation section and look at some of this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to, so the main ones for you, the documents, getting the toolkit and all the documents along here, the e-fillable form, and then the Facilitator Resource Center. You know, in a few weeks, that'll all be having all your handouts and all the videos from your training. And then these MAP orientations and resources are for the community and the peer community or family members or anybody, you know, that was our general education section there. So with that, I'm going back to the home page. Just to remind you, right in the lead-in paragraph here, you can get to the workbook, the forms, toolkit. Down here takes you to that main mental health page. Toolkit is here again. So this website, it began as a website for helping people to live through serious illness and end of life. So as we grew over since the early 90s, then the last several years we've been working on mental health. So we're going to rebuild this, and we'll be taking down this, probably this banner and putting up, it'll be caring community, but I'm not sure what we'll change this part here. And we're working on that too pretty soon. So with that, I'm going to go out of the website and before I take questions, just note for you that the peer member orientation sessions are going to be happening at the Wellness Center on next Thursday, and then at Interlink the following Friday. And I really want to encourage you as the MAP facilitators to attend the session in your center, because we're going to have you know, the program for the day there to talk about all this. I'll be doing like a 20-minute presentation, and then we'll open it to discussion. And it's a good place to start to talk over how this will work and get the peers themselves engaged in this. So with that, let's see, stop recording.